couple of seconds, and you're now live.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Councillor Diane Donaldson. Welcome to the Bromford and Hodge Hill online ward forum meeting. I'll be chairing the meeting and along with my ward colleague, Councillor Majid Mahmood. This is the first live meeting of the Bromford and Hodge Hill Ward Forum. So I just please note that this is a live forum. Everyone who is participating in this online meeting, the meeting is recorded and will be available for future record. If you wish to ask a question, please put your question in the chat facility and we will answer as we go along. You should have the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the policing issues, but unfortunately the police haven't been able to attend. But if there's any questions that you'd like to make around policing, we'll endeavour to answer them for you. So I'm not getting any questions through on policing. So if we do get questions on policing coming through during the duration of the meeting, we'll take them at the end. So if we move on to item 4, which is local updates and information. The first item 1 is updates from ward councillors. So I'd like to update on what's happened today at Planning Committee at Birmingham City Council. The part of the Bromford regeneration, the 2 first sites have been approved by the Planning Committee, so that will see about 25 new homes and 28 new homes developed on the 2 sites respectively. So it's much needed social housing. We will see, so now that it's been approved, the work is likely to go ahead around December at the earliest, probably, or the beginning of the new year, 2021. There are still other sites that have got to go to Planning Committee. So in the next 2 years, there'll be a lot of activity on the sites in Bromford and Hodge on Bromford Estate. One is the Comet Park, and the other main one, the biggest one, is the Berrendale site. So if anybody would like to ask questions, I've got questions coming in. Let me just have a look. Okay, so so I've had PC Hunter has said he's available now. So if anybody would like to ask questions to the police, he's now available to answer. But I'll pass over to my ward colleague, Councillor Majid Mahmood, who's going to update on further events in Bromford and Hodge Hill. Thank you, Majid.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Now that the police, there is a question for the police. It's around, obviously, during the pandemic, the COVID-19, I'd like to thank the police for all their extensive work that they've carried out in Bromford and Hodge Hill Ward over this very difficult and challenging period. We've had a number of instances where people, like within the not following the guidance around the social distancing. Just interested to see how many notices have been issued or how many sort of engagements they've had with residents around the Bromford and Hodge Hill Ward because they've breached the social distancing guidelines. And secondly, the issue that keeps cropping up, and it's still cropping up, I know we've had some news from Tesco that they are going to install some barriers to the car park, the external car park. Whether the police have had any engagement with Tesco around that and whether we have a timeline. Just last week, I heard again that overnight that there's been some drug dealing, some joyriding taking place at Tesco. And finally, there seems to be the habitual car thief back again, where they keep breaking the windows of mainly private hire taxis in and around both Ward End and Hodge Hill and Alum Rock. And again, have they managed to catch the perpetrator? Because I know someone was arrested last week around burglaries on the Washbury Road, so potentially that could be linked to the person that's been robbing effectively items from cars. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, so bear with me on the technology. Can we bring in Sergeant Hunter to respond? Yeah.
Sergeant Hunter can only type in at the moment, so we might have to wait for his reply. I don't know how quick his typing skills are, so maybe next item when we dip in and dip out.
Right, so
Shall I give an update on some of the work we've been doing since the last ward forum then, Chair?
yes, please, Hodge.
Yeah, okay, just following on from the Chair's announcement around the good news with the planning being approved now for the 2 sites on the old Bailey and Stony Croft sites. All the properties that will be built there, they're not going to be for profit, they're going to be for social housing. And we have made representations that the property should be, there should be some form of priority to local residents because they live in the area, and it's usually for families who have basically they've got more people living in them than they did when they first moved in. So again, I'm still going to try to work some magic around that to see if we can get some sort of priority scheme. The flood defence work, which everyone has seen on the Bromford Drive, that's happening, and it's ironic actually with all the flooding that's happening around the city. We've escaped again, except Coal Hall Lane. But Bromford now will be secure, and I can see that Representative from Key is nodding his head because he's happy there's no issues around the Bromford and Hodge ward. And going forward, this is absolutely brilliant for us. I chaired going back now 8 years, the Flood and Risk Management Board. And at that point, we were discussing the various flood defence in the city. Clearly, I was kind of biased towards my own area, so I did push for Bromford and Hodge. And people say, no, it's never been flooded. Well, it'll never get flooded now once we've got the wall up anyway. On the news on that, they are going to, I think it's either this week or next week, the play equipment will be removed. You're not supposed to be using it anyway because of the social distancing and the COVID-19 guidelines. But that will be removed this week, but it's only temporarily, and it'll come back. Environment Agency, City Council and HS2, I believe, are getting together to give us some funding so that we can bring the equipment, but not that particular equipment because there's health and safety issues around that. Because when that equipment was installed, it met the health and safety guidelines, but over time the health and safety guidelines have got more stringent. So some of those items we won't be able to bring back, but we will have good compensation to bring other items back, and myself and Dan, and we'll bring it to a ward forum, and we'll discuss what items we need to bring back because people want the outdoor gym equipment. I've seen that was quite well used, and we also need to provide something for the toddlers and the young children around that. And as we're given an update on the phone, I really want to extend my thanks to all frontline workers that live in Bromford and Hodge ward for all the extensive work that they've been carrying out over this pandemic. They've been risking their lives. We've lost, my thoughts and prayers are with all the people that we've lost during this pandemic. Just today, we lost one of our residents from Ermington Crescent, who was the Imam at the Masjid Ali on Aston Church Road, Mr. Ul-Haq. My thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. And again, we lost bus drivers, we've lost a whole host of people from the wards. I'd like to thank them. But I also would like to mention and thank all the volunteers that have stepped up in our ward over the last 3-4 months. We've had a number of community tables where food has been, people can donate food and they can take the food if they need it. And then we've had a number of food banks, one at the Old Bromford Community Centre, where I think Tina Hotels Boxing, she's managing that. We've had Furs and Furs Bromford together managing a food bank as well, utilising some support from Bethany Food Bank. We've got lots of individuals and donors, a number of the businesses, like we've got, as I was saying to Kevin in the pre-meet, we've got a number of businesses that are on the Almack Road, such as Pack Supermarket, for example, and they've been brilliant. They've provided carry bags, not only to our food banks here in Bromford and Hodge, but across the city. They've even supplied the active and wellbeing site with the carrier bags. As a donation, they were even offered money for them, but they said, no, this is our donation to the city. So I'd like to thank all the businesses that have stepped forward, Galaxy Cars, Centrex Cars, Pack Supermarket, Pack Foods, even we got a load of, I think, 2,000 carrier bags off them. They haven't got any stores in Birmingham. They've got a number of stores just outside in the West Midlands. But they provided us yesterday with 2,000 more carrier bags on top of all the donations they've been given. And Steve and Karen Priestley and a number of volunteers, Dee, Sarah at the St Wilfrid's Community Centre. Then up until last week, we've now distributed or delivered 895 food parcels from the St Wilfrid's Community Centre. So this week, tomorrow, we will, smash through the 1,000 parcel. But I know what we have noticed is that, people are saying, oh, you came, you started this food bank quite late. Well, the demand started increasing. The more time that was spent with people being furloughed from work, people not going to work, people like South said, the more the need came. So we stepped up our operations. Thank you to the Active Wellbeing site also. Then we've also had a number of business owners that we've been supporting who have claimed the £10,000, £25,000 grant. Again, residents of Bromford Hodge Award, but predominantly shops in Washwood Heath Road and Allen Rock Road. And just like to thank the officers as well here, the officers that are here today, because I think all officers now, City Council, are working from home, and it has been challenging at the outset. I mean, I was working from home through my day job and through the council role as a councillor as well. But you're trying to kind of get used to it as well. I think it's something that a lot of people are probably going to get used to, not wanting to go back. In terms of Hodge as well, obviously we've got Black Lives Matters now, and a lot of people have approached us wanting to do protests, but we've got social distancing guidelines and something. But we are going to work on something, myself and the chair, see if we can have some sort of silent protest over the next few weeks, just to show our solidarity with people of race who have been discriminated against, both here in this country and abroad, with the unfortunate death of George Floyd. And we've had today, just this morning, we had because we've got the new highways partners here, and we've got Kevin here. We're glad he stayed on, and he's still our representative, although he's probably upset. But it's really good, because you've been a breath of fresh air, to be fair, and you've helped us along. And we had a list of new works on the carriageway and the footway that have been proposed, and I've already sent an email back, because I just mentioned the 3 roads where we get lots of potholes and carriageway issues are Hodge Common, Bradstock Avenue, Plaistow Avenue, and I've just mentioned them to see, look, is there any way you can prioritise these 3 roads, because we do get lots of issues around these, and it just seems a futile exercise coming back, repairing the potholes, then 3-4 weeks later you find another pothole, we go back and report again, you start the work again. Also Bromford Drive, but with Bromford Drive, we have this regeneration happening now around the Bromford. I think it's probably going to be premature if we were to get that resurfaced just now, because once the work starts, is proposals in the end is about 252, I think, properties that we're trying to build in and around the Bromford area. So you can imagine all the lorries that are going to go up and down the Bromford Drive. So it's clearly going to cause an issue. So I think we can delay the Bromford Drive, but it's in our thoughts. It's something that does need to be worked on. The other question I did have,
potholes that maybe could be addressed.
And well, that's on that one. I did promise a resident yesterday. He approached me via Facebook, and he said that he reported the potholes on Bromford Drive, and he got a reply saying they will be repaired, but by December of this year, which seems kind of like 6 months' time. Okay. I mean,
do you want me to briefly, quickly just explain the new criteria that we're working under? Because
yes, please.
Criteria that we're working under now is...
I'm done now anyway. Anything else that comes up?
Right. So, evening everybody. So, Amy and Birmingham Council have now parted ways. Kia have now taken over. I'm still the steward for the area. It's business as usual for me. So, we continue as normal. With regards to the timescales of repairing defects now, the way the setup works is that we haven't got a lot of different types of timescales. We've simply got 2. Will it last 6 months or won't it last 6 months? If it won't last 6 months, then we have to look at getting things done urgently. If it will last 6 months, then it has a 6-month target date, hence the reason why some of the potholes on Bromford Drive, we're looking at sort of December, because that gives our planning team the opportunity to plan things in further in advance, so things don't keep getting pushed back and back and back when more urgent defects come in. That's the theory behind it, and it's working well. It's working really well at the moment. And hopefully it will continue. Hopefully that everybody will be able to see some proper improvements going on out there now, after the weeks of uncertainty that it was before the contract change.
We've had some good work done on Collingbourne Avenue. Kia did that, which was work that should have been done by your predecessors and wasn't done. With the 6 months, I mean, I get that, and it makes sense around the planning. If you've got a number of potholes which are damaging vehicles, so do you look into the report, say, from local councils or residents?
Yeah.
If it damages vehicles, then surely they should be repaired.
Absolutely.
Like,
the same rules
days as opposed to weeks.
Absolutely. The same rules apply as normal. Anything that comes up, any changes that happen to those potholes as we go through the period of time, if they get worse, if they get bigger, let me know and we'll expedite it. It's simple as that. Everything that gets reported gets inspected. I'm currently working on a 3-day inspection time at the moment, so anything that comes into me is normally inspected within 3 days and then sorted, hopefully.
So I'm getting a lot of requests from Hodge Hill Road, that area.
Hodge Hill Road, yeah.
Hodge Hill Road, yeah.
So we're absolutely up to date with our inspection regime. So every road gets inspected once every 6 months, and we're absolutely spot on with that at the moment. That's not falling behind. So if there's any extras that you need me to look at, if you give me a couple of locations as normal, and I'll get those looked at on the inquiries format.
Okay, another inquiry. Oh, sorry, Majid, you carry on.
Good. On the reply to Kevin Hicks today around the maintenance program, I also mentioned that on you've got the 4-school campus on Bromford Road, and if you look at Bromford Road and Brockers Road, where the children, it's largely pedestrianised. That's the route they use to come into the school. Nearly all the slabs are broken. I mean, you need to have a look at it. It's that bad, and that's on Brockers Road. They need replacement. We need a complete resurface of the footpath. And on Bromford Road itself, the left-hand side opposite the schools, if you look at the slabs there as well, same situation. They're all broken. And then I think must have been at least 20, 30 years, I speak to some of the residents, you've got parts of the footpath which have got the tarmac in, but then you've also got lots of weeds and flowers growing up because they've never ever been touched. Again, those are the 2 roads that I would like to put forward for a complete resurfacing. And obviously with the current environment, people driving over slabs, it's going to be tricky to put slabs back in. They're very expensive, but they should be tarmac, both of them, and the quicker the better.
So with regards to the resurfacing programme, Kia has minimal influence over the resurfacing programme. That is being done by BCC with their partners in this, with Arcadis and their respective contractors. Bromford Road footways, I believe, are already in batch 1 of this programme, but as it stands, I can't give you any dates as to when. I'm unsure. I'm still unsure myself as to when they're going to be, when those schemes are going to be starting to take place. We are starting, or rather, Arcadis and their contractors are starting to do resurfacing schemes. So that's just going to ramp up and ramp up and ramp up. But with regards to the full resurfacing schemes, I have no control over any of that, and minimal influence. For us, it's more, as Kia, it's more reactive work that we're doing, and then Birmingham and working with Arcadis to get this resurfacing scheme going.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Another inquiry that I've had from residents is about owners of houses carrying out works and then breaking the pavement slabs, and who would be responsible for good.
I did send you an email back on the response to the one from earlier on today. So if we can, the resident that sent that photo, brilliant. That's exactly what we need to be able to recharge. However, we need to be able to recharge the people that caused the damage. So in order to do that, we need the vehicle reg. If we can get a photograph of the vehicle in situ with the registration of the vehicle, I can pass that on to claims, and they will look to recover any damage caused to the highway.
Okay, thank you.
The only other thing I've got is, well, two things, both connected. One is on the actual general street lights program on the new white LED, because the previous proposal was that eventually we would have the whole city having the white LED, because obviously it saves on electricity, because they only cost, I think it's about 40% of the electricity that the other lights have. And secondly, on that, we submitted 2 petitions in relation to Hodge Common. One we've spoken about, which is the carriageway. The second is on the street lights, because they've got the really, really old street lights. And Hodge Common, on the one side, you've got the common. So you can imagine bad lighting coming there in the winter after 5 p.m. It is quite, if you're not coming in a car, it's scary for people coming through there. And on where we've got the old car park where we've got the gate, that's notorious for fly tipping.
Yeah.
And there's no street lighting there at all. So it would be extremely beneficial if we could get a street column. TV's just come on to switch it off. Get a street column just there next to the car park, and then have the new white LEDs at some point in the future. And we can also discuss it with residents as to where they actually want the street columns that we used to do before with your predecessors. Yeah.
So again, on this one, I did send your particular email over to street lighting. That was all logged onto the system, so you will get a full response from street lighting with regards to your inquiry about getting the street lights done on Hodge Common. I will keep an eye on that for you, and I will continue to chase, because we did start this before Kia took over. And with regards to the carriageway, the state of the carriageway as well, I will continue to carry on doing what I was doing with that.
Thank you. I've had some responses from PC Hunter, if you want me to read those out, want to hear those. Have you got anything else? Any more issues for Kevin?
No, I think Kevin.
No?
We're just pleased. Is it actually grip bins? One last final issue. We paid for grip bins.
Okay.
We paid for grip bins through our community chest approximately 6 years ago, in the good old days of having some local money that we could use. And I just want an assurance that the grip bins we've got, they have been put into the new contract, so that they will be supplied with the grip as and when we come towards. And this year, this has been one of the strangest years ever. I wouldn't be surprised if we get snow next week. So I just want to make sure that he's ready.
Yeah, it's possible.
The grip.
No, for the most part of the changeover, it's been the grip bins that would have been done under Amy will still be done under Keir, which a lift and a shift. And if there are any issues with anything like that, let me know and we can jump straight on it.
Yeah. Oh, and final question. Coal Hall Lane, that was flooded again yesterday. And since we've had the new bridge, which is brilliant, it's always been flooded. I had a number of calls yesterday from residents, because it's on the boundary of Bromford and Hodge and Chardin. Yeah. I think it actually comes under Chardin.
No, it actually comes under Glebe Farm and Tile Cross, because it's over the other side. So it's on the boundary of three wards, but it actually comes into Glebe Farm and Tile Cross.
Well, it's in our border anyway, and
but it's on the border.
If you're getting continuous ponding on a specific road, surely you're a highways partner. There is an issue there, so we should tackle that issue. I'm in the middle of actually drafting a letter. I'll be speaking to the chair to Severn Trent as well, because I also think they need to increase their capacity, because with this more sort of like torrential rain we're getting, the capacity of the drains needs to be widened as well to cope with it.
Yeah. Okay, so I was only speaking to our drainage guys about this because that is my way to work. I have to go that way to work, and it's quite a distance to go around the block to get past it. So with regards to Coal Hall Lane, when the scheme was designed, as everybody that's seen the bridge is aware, it's got they're called beanie curbs, which run down the side, which take the water off rather than just having one drain. Those beanie curbs take the surface water off the surface and deposit it into the river. Nothing wrong with that. But however, since we've been getting all this worse weather, and when the river comes up to a point, that outflow pipe then surcharges and the water comes back up the outflow pipe, hence covering the carriageway. It doesn't take much for those beanie curbs to be blocked off with debris and things like that, and then we get the standing water on the on the road until the river level subsides. Coupled with also there is a capacity issue that Severn Trent are aware of with the sewer on Coal Lane. So those two situations do make a bit of a perfect storm at that particular location, being a low point. It is something that's been investigated and looked into as to how we can resolve this issue, because it doesn't take much to put a flood there.
Can I just ask two cheeky questions, Chair, before Kevin goes?
Yes,
The first cheeky question is, now that you mentioned Glebe Farm, Cottrell's Lane, I was one of the Labour Party members, because I'm one of the office holders for the CRP. We get calls from across constituency. He called about there was some work that we did as a council where we helped the residents with a new sort of like slip road onto it to access their properties, vehicles, but that's actually, it's caused some flooding now with the torrential rain. So whether you could have a look at that. What I'll do is I'll email you the address.
Yeah,
you
please.
can look at that tomorrow on your investigation. The second cheek one, obviously we've got this food bank at Bromford Community Centre, and the support we're getting from the council is decreasing because of budgets. Just wondering if Kia's got some sort of scheme where either you could let us have some volunteers, or if you could, get us some donations for some foodstuffs.
Again, stick it in if you can pop it in an email to me, I'll put it over to our,
we'll do that.
communications guys, and they'll happily put something together. I think at the moment we still get to do, as it was with Amy, we still get charity days and things that we can. So yeah, we can do something. We can try and do something.
We've got a leak in the community centre as well, so we might have some specialists who could help us with that.
Not a problem. I can always send it over and put it out for the wider business. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Councillor Donaldson, it's Kay, sorry. A resident has asked about, there's a question, a resident is asking about the old street lighting in Brockhurst Road.
Hold on, yeah, Brockhurst Road, the old street lighting.
Yeah, we've taken that out before. I remember that. Yeah. We've taken that out with Amy, the predecessors, and they said that will go into the normal priority queues as and when there's going to be a need for it. But it's not one of those that's completely prioritised because the lights are fairly new. The one that we've really pushed is Hodge Common because of the fact that the area is dark as well in the evenings. But again, we can, if you can log Brockhurst Road as well as to our list, sure. Then we can. In fact, what we'll do is, Chair, if it's okay with you, we'll add down to the list that we're going to send to Kevin Hicks. That is tomorrow.
Okay.
Prioritised. He's on there because he has been.
And there's also lighting issues in the shops on Collingbourne around there.
That's not part of our contracts. That's council.
Housing. Okay.
Yeah, we know about them. They're housing because it took us. The problem we've got, because again, there was a conversation held with Amy, was that the housing assets would be transferred over to Amy, but it never materialised. So I'm not sure if there's a conversation happening with Kia whether the housing assets can be transferred, because we're finding it difficult to find suppliers of some of the parts in some of the street lights, which are housing lights. That's why we converted most of the ones we had on the Bromford to Amy then, which now goes into Kia. That would be something that we would want to do as well. But with Brockhurst Road, I think what we need to argue is the fact that you've got the shouted housing accommodation scheme, so there is a priority case there for the new street lights.
So no, with updating the street lights, it depends on the age and the type of light that's already there, as we know. But there's no harm in asking the question. I certainly will do.
Okay. Thanks. I've just had a message from PC Hunter. He said he's just checked and there's no snow next week. Right.
It's 2020 and the weather changes every minute.
It does, doesn't it? So I think that's all for Kevin for tonight. So Kevin, thank you for your contributions. You've been most helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Ward Forum. Absolute pleasure, as always. Anything that I can do for any residents, if the residents do have any further questions, please just send them over to me, and we'll get you the responses. Yeah, okay. I'll send those over in an email for you. Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Right. Going back to the police questions, I've had a few responses from PC Hunter. Right. In relation to the COVID issue and the numbers, I do not know the numbers. However, I believe most mostly the police have been giving advice and moving people on along with the education as to why we're having to speak to them. So basically there's advising people, moving them along. Regarding the vehicles on the Tesco site, it's an issue that the police and local NHT are monitoring. Tesco are trying to help with closing of the inner barriers, and that has reduced the noisy issues to some extent. Also have put in a bid for barriers at the outside access egress location. It's believed that this will be too expensive. However, they are also looking at other alternatives. So, got another new question coming.
Do we know what the other alternatives are?
No, I'm just scrolling on to the next message to see. No, he hasn't said what the other alternatives are. If PC Hunter's still live, would you be able to inform us what the other alternatives are? The issues of vehicles being attacked, mainly taxi vehicle, I was aware of the initial issues on Hodge Hill and did send out a tweet of awareness to any taxi drivers. I'm not aware of any numbers of similar offences on Hodge Hill since that stage, but I think there has been incidents. I don't know if they've been reported.
They've been reported.
Okay.
They're all on the one road, Monk Road. They had about 4 at the same time. But a few years back, if you remember, about 2 years ago, we had a spate of them in and around the avenues in Hodge Hill and Ward End. So when happened in Ward End, they happened in Hodge Hill. So but police are aware now, and I'm sure action can take it.
Yes, it happens in the whole area, Buckland End as well. Right. See if there's any more. They're looking at ANPR systems for Tesco's and ticket machines. So that will be.
So when you drive in, you take it.
Yeah. So that sounds. Let's have a look. Got more questions coming in, I think. No, that's all the questions. So there's nothing else at the moment.
Do we know, Dan, about having these virtual meetings for the Housing Liaison Board?
I was speaking to the chair of the Housing Liaison Board, and I mentioned that today. So I think it would be an idea to have the meetings, virtual meetings for the HLB.
Yeah, because we don't know how long we're going to be in this situation, so we might as well start organising. Then on that, could we also speak to the relevant officers in terms of the funds we have available for the HLB, the housing environmental funds, because last year's funds we agreed to carry them forward because of the regeneration scheme, to add them to the various schemes we've got around the regeneration. If we can send an email through, because I've had a number of residents approach me and ask me what we did with that money and what we're going to do with the money this year. And I said, well, we've kind of put it all together for regeneration. So, but we've not had any notification from anyone in terms of that pot of money. That could be investigated. And just the update to give on the 2 highway schemes. The one obviously you're aware of, Chair, where we've given a list of bollards to the engineers to install in and around Bromford and Hodge Ward. There's at least 6-7 locations. And also I've been speaking to the officers who are doing the work on the Iron Lane project, and I should get a date at some point next week in terms of the works that will be carried out outside Tesco and on Stetchford Lane, which was works that were scheduled before COVID kicked in, and then the contractors, because they were self-isolated, they couldn't carry out the work. But rest assured that work will be done. It's still in the timeline for them to get done at some point in the next few weeks. And we'll let residents know as and when that happens. And just to ask residents, anyone who is here, just to keep following our Facebook and Twitter, where we try to update residents with what's happening in and around Bromford and Hodge. And thank all the various groups, the Hodge residents group, Furs and Bromford together, and all the other below the radar volunteers we have who have been carrying that extensive work. And I understand today we gave, the City Council has now agreed you can have community litter picks at parks only, but you have to be socially distancing, and it can't be more than 6 people. So if there's anyone who wants to do, has got an urge to do a community litter pickup, then it's going to be Hodge Common. We can wing that as a park, can't we?
Will they supply the bags? Because when I asked before, they wouldn't supply the bags because they weren't supporting any local picks.
No, they're supporting litter picks in parks.
Yeah, but will they supply the bin bags and the PPE? Yeah.
I don't know about the PPE. I don't think we've got enough PPE ourselves, have we, as a city council? But they will supply the bags. They have to supply the bags.
I do have some PPE that was kindly donated by Pillars Academy, so I do have some. If anybody wants to go out for a litter pick, then
if anybody wants to do a litter pick in a park, then you can have up to 6 people only.
Right.
6. So we just need to be mindful of the numbers.
Okay.
To be fair, it's pretty clean.
And thank you to all the litter pickers that go out on their own initiative, on their own, and without any support. They just do it of their own will, and they keep the area nice. It's good to see.
No, it is.
Thank you.
No, it's quite. We're quite blessed. We have, like I said, the number of below the radar volunteers who just basically go out just on their own road, and they'll do litter picking. If there is anyone who knows someone who is doing that, he or she is doing that, then please let us know, and we'll try to get them some equipment so that it makes it easier for them, so they don't have to go to their own expense to buy the equipment. More than happy to do that.
Right. Okay, I've had another question come through from it's anonymous. Is there anything that can be done about the racing?
That I should have mentioned that. I mean, if PC Hunter's still here, I did email the police that on Sandhurst Avenue, Madison, and primarily the road I live on, it is quite bad now, because I think, and it was really bad when the pandemic kicked in and the lockdown was a proper lockdown in late March, early April. It did increase because you had less vehicles on the roads. It was quite bad actually at one point. The police are aware. Difficulties. What can you actually do on the avenues? It's difficult. A lot of people you don't tend to park on the road now. They park on the drives. Even if they've got more, they tend to park on the drives or the grass verges, which they shouldn't be parking on the grass verges, which gives free access to people to race their vehicles. It's something that the police need to look into. Perhaps we can have a speed watch at some point in some of the
I think the police were speaking about doing a speed watch before COVID, but now that's something that we can go ahead with. The roads that are being mentioned are Coleshill Road and Brockhurst Road for speeding.
Brockhurst Road, we've got the vehicle activated sign, so we could ask Alan and Andy Dimmock to have a look at the speeds again. We did that about 18 months ago, the last time we got a printout, and surprisingly we didn't find any vehicle. I think that the fastest one we found was 48 miles per hour. That was in the evening about 2 a.m. But I can, if you can, Chair, just send them an email after this meeting, ask them if they can get that. Coleshill Road, again, that's a strategic road, so it's difficult to get speed bumps, but that's something that we could look at, getting some pedestrian, those sort of like access points that we have on Bromford Road. We could possibly do that on Coleshill Road as well. I've mentioned it before. Again, we can add that onto the list actually if we've got any money left over. We did used to have a vehicle activated sign actually on Coleshill Road, but it disappeared. Someone robbed it. We don't know who. Someone actually robbed it. It was standing between that one sole house you've got on Coleshill Road by the Common. It was just there.
PC Hunter has added, he'll ask if there's an option of a speed check operation.
Oh, brilliant.
And another, I'm new on this, sorry, my settings are anonymous. It's Munir Khan from Brockhurst Road, but he hasn't been able to get his settings.
That explains.
Yeah, we're all struggling with the new technology, but we'll get there.
That explains.
Well done for getting on the meeting.
Street lights.
I know a few residents have struggled to get onto the meeting. It's new to all of us, but we'll get there in the end. Anything else? So PC Hunter says just list the streets. So we'll send an email to PC Hunter with a list of all the streets, and then he'll see what he can do.
I've seen a question from Munir. When the cars go over 50 miles per the signs work. I don't know about that. That's something we'll check with Alan. He gets the readouts from the VAS, the vehicle activated sign, and we'll come back to you, Munir, on that once we've had a printout. In fact, we could share the printout. We can make it public knowledge. It's not. Yeah. It's not GDPR, is it? Because there's no vehicle registration plates on there. It just gives you.
It just gives you the volume and the times. I think it gives times and the dates and
the speed. That's it.
The speed. Yeah.
But Brockhurst Road also, because we've had this conversation before, when we looked into it, we did actually put in 4 speed bumps many years ago. It's going back 6-7 years ago. But then it was because it's the only access route from Ward End for the fire brigade to use to the Bromford. They were against it, so we weren't able to put in any speed bumps. So they class it as a strategic road. So it's not something we could put speed. But there's other measures potentially we could do, but it's always difficult with those kind of through roads that have been used. But we'll have a look at the printout. I know there is some, we have put in a bid, if we're talking about highways, we have put in a bid for Stetchford Road, a major scheme around there, because we've had 2 fatalities, I think, in the last few years. And it's one of those really sad things where if you have an injury or a death, you can actually apply for different types of funding from central government to revamp the highway. And there is a bid, which I guess we need to have a Microsoft Teams meeting with Alan and Andy Dimmock as to what stage that bid is. That the last time I spoke to them, it was that bid can only get triggered once the works on I-Lane are completed. Obviously, there's been a delay there because of COVID-19. So potentially in a few more months' time, we'll have some news around work on Stetchford Road.
Okay, Munir's now on as Munir. He's managed to get the settings correct. Well done. He says he watches them every day and he can see the sign from his bedroom window.
Okay. In fact, Munir, if you watch them every day, why don't you film them and just send us the film, which we can forward on to the police? Then we might be able to find some registration plates from there as well. And if not, we could always highlight it as well, so people are aware that it's a problem on Brockhurst Road. And clearly there's an issue there because it's dangerous. Because if it's happening as often as people are telling us it's happening, then at some point there's going to be a fatality, and none of us want to see anyone injured on our street. So if you could do that, that would be really helpful.
It's a shame that it has to be reactive instead of proactive.
That's it.
That we can't get the bollards, the speed bumps put in beforehand. We have to wait for something to happen before anything can be done.
Yeah, that's also one. It's not just about bollards, it's about rechanging, because I think with Stetchford Road, that's a strategic, it's about rechanging the makeup of the road, and it's very costly as you were, because you have to pay the maintenance for 20 odd years.
Right. Stetchford Road, the pedestrian lights outside the school are on short timing. Please, can you get the lights a few seconds longer? So
it's probably on short timing because of the school, wasn't it? But the school's not open yet, is it? It's still closed. You can get them changed quite quickly. Actually, you just need to send an email to Andy.
Yeah, add that to the list.
Got a long list today.
Yeah, it is a long list. Right. I think any more questions? I don't appear to have any more questions on highways. Munir said he'll get some more videos. Thank you. Yeah, we look forward to seeing those. So I think that's about everything on highways. So we can move on to the next item, which is community groups and residents, but I don't think we've got any more.
Have we got anyone from
attendees or no questions? I think people have struggled tonight with the new technology, so we don't have a high turnout, unfortunately. But as people get used to the new technology, I'm sure the numbers will increase.
Well, we can arrange another meeting if officers are available, say next month.
It's worth mentioning that this meeting is watched after the live event, so that residents can listen to your notices. So they will be able to watch the meeting in the next week or so, maybe sooner, after the event.
Will we get the link to that so we can put onto our social media as well, so residents can get onto the link and watch it? Well, that's helpful, actually. That's really helpful. So we can potentially even WhatsApp that once we get the link.
Yeah, we're working on the link, and it should be available soon. As I say, this is a test, and we're seeing what we can do. But the hope is that, well, the recordings will be made available after